Hey guys, I'm gonna turn the audio down and then turn Eric's mic up so that you can hear him. But I am here with Team Bad Decisions. Another teammate up there where Eric Gibbs is with me, and he's gonna be soft for another 30 seconds as my. There you go. Everyone can hear you. You're live to the world, Eric.
What's going on, guys?
And then big drops this week. Between last week and this week, I know we had a little bit light week last week with the holiday, but
Yo,
GW did deliver. They're not doing the fourth over there in England, so they dropped the hammer on giving us stuff.
yeah. So we got with the new rules and all these new Primaris models that they're leaking, and the Void Dragon and all that. Yeah, we got some cool stuff that just came out.
And the Void Dragon's huge from a lore aspect because that's
Oh, he's cool.
he's the dude on Mars, right?
Um, I think so. I know he was one of the four actual shards that was basically still active. Like a lot of them are dormant. Um, and I know that yeah, I'm hoping we'll see all four of them. Besides what one are we missing? The Outrider. Outrider's the one we're missing.
Yeah, and his model looks sweet. I think it's gonna be from what it looks like. We don't really have a great size comparison, but you're thinking like Morty, like because he's kind of up off his
Easily,
face and
easily.
his wings coming out.
Yeah, I think he is easily that size.
Yeah, and he's he's gonna be a great centerpiece model. Do you think he's gonna play rules wise, kind of like Morty around that point range and about that use?
I don't think he's going to be as expensive as Morty, but I think he is going to definitely be played on the field. I know the other two Satan are played commonly. I mean, it just depends what kind of play style you're playing, but this guy, as far as lore goes and all that, is like the most powerful Satan out there. So
Yeah,
he's going to be up there.
and with Necrons being able to do that whole like we can cast psychic like powers without being denied because they're not really psychic powers in the psychic phase, having
Yep.
a big dude that can do that in the center of the table and not get messed with in a Morty style would be great.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be sweet. I know Silent King is gonna be nuts. So I'm anticipating the Silent King being able to access Satan powers as well because I'm pretty sure. I know he when he went to rest. I know he had a Satan shard with him. Can't remember the name of him off the top of my head,
It's
but
the one that's powering his throne,
the
right, on
dude
his
up
model.
top. Yep,
Yeah,
yeah, he's got him. He's kind of poking out a little bit. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he's gonna have access to these Satan powers as well. Um, so could be pretty cool.
yeah, I'd I'd have to agree with that. Um, but I guess first and foremost, they dropped the core rule book to ninth edition.
Yes,
That
yes,
is a 25 page kind of like dip your toe in the water base rules for the game, right?
yeah. I think it's basically the entire rule book, except for I mean, we don't know all of the terrain rules are not in there. The missions aren't in there. The stratagems, the couple that they've leaked there, aren't in there. So
Because they
um,
did leak like even missions for the individual types, like combat patrol missions and
yeah, they I think they leaked one of each. But I get my guess is obviously there's got to be more. So if it's anything like the rule book we have right now, you're probably talking six of each.
yeah. So it's probably going to be what you'd say, maybe I don't know, 75 pages up most. They only released 25 so far, but something in that ballpark, maybe twice as much, given that there's going to be mission content and stratagems and
Yeah, I mean you're talking probably if you're talking what is it, four different types of games. So you're talking 24 pages alone, and just that if there's six missions each, and then
yeah,
your probably your basic intro to each one. Um, terrain rules are probably pretty generic, but again, like in the rulebook that we currently have, there's still 8 or 9 pages of that, depending on what type of scenario and all that. And then there's the specialty terrain, like the statues and all that. So I'm sure those are going to have some interesting rules in there as well with that.
Matt did bring up a 40-page leak that didn't hit the internet, but we're not allowed to cough uncough support any sort of non.
Yeah, we got.
Release, so I know nothing. I see nothing. I hear nothing.
You got it.
Reddit users beware. We cannot speak on things that are leaked. So
yeah,
take it with a grain of salt.
Can speak it on a little bit, but nothing I can really do too much on. So,
also something we could touch on today. We could talk about it in a limited context, but Digital Gen Con is coming up.
Yes.
There's going to be some digital 40K stuff going on with Digital Gen Con. I know that there's no definite this is happening and then this is happening, but from a 40K standpoint, we could talk about if you're itching to get on something, you can get a free ticket, right? General admission ticket digitally for Gen Con.
I'm pretty sure they're free. I think there's also potential. Like I said, we're still talking about some of the events that we're going to run ourselves with Team Bad Decisions because we're doing one of the remote hosts. But we've talked about potentially having some of the more named celebrity 40K guys on and playing games against them. We've talked about doing like a remote piloting person. So basically, like, you get on, you pay some money because it's all anything that is given is donated at charity. So basically, it's a veteran or an Army veteran fundraiser, basically, and so all proceeds go there. And we're like I said, we're talking about doing some potential remote piloting where you're in my head and you're telling me how to play my army. We're going to have, I think, almost every potential army out there of some sort. I mean, we're not going to have every chaos army, but we'll have chaos. We'll have demons. We'll have hopefully Necrons. Hopefully we'll have Space Marines. I think we're going to have a Salamander's army available. There'll be Harlequins. I think Eldar and Grey Knights. So like we have just about anything and everything you can think of. That will hopefully be shown over that 4-day event.
Yeah, and we can't really speak to a whole lot of specifics because that's still getting ironed out right now.
But yeah, we're still working on that. We're hopefully within the next 2 weeks having everything completely figured out and whatnot. But I know there's multiple places that are doing this. And they'll all be streaming this event. And like I said, you can donate money and potentially drop an orbital bombardment on the CAGs group or something to affect their terrain or whatnot. So you can do that with all the locations depending on who you're watching and whose game you want to screw with.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's supposed to be like a 9th edition intro to the game and showing all the tactics of it and also showing the like a mega battle-esque type thing where there's lots of things happening at once and certain things set off to affect other people's games. So should be fun. I mean, it'll be a good 4-day event.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it is a great event for those, I don't know, 4 days or so. But we'll get more onto that in the future.
Yeah, once we get iron more of this garbage out that we're going through, because it's a lot, because not only are we dealing with multiple places and all that, but even us locally, we just got re-shut down with the COVID thing because of the the outbreaks we're having again because people aren't behaving themselves. So
Yeah. Sadly,
it's something we got to be careful with.
Sadly, that's the world we live in nowadays.
Yup. We're all ninjas.
Yeah. But getting into the 9th edition stuff, basic rules. How are these? Because I know there's going to be 10,000 other podcasts talking about these rules in detail. If you want to listen to some dry guy read these word for word, you could have listened to my show last week where I did that exact same thing. I dryly read these word for word. So we're just going to talk about like how this affects army composition, competitive building. Eric is a award-winning army builder and competitor in our area, and how some of these changes affect you and how you look at army composition and how to build a better army in 9th than you were building in 8th. So, top 3 rules changes for you when building an army. What are they going into 9th?
So the top 3 things that I would definitely say has affected me are the unit coherency. I think that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, change in this edition. I think then you're talking the assault phase has changed a lot, and I would say probably the third is going to be the morale. I think those are probably the 3 biggest changes. Everything else is the same, if not minor changes throughout the whole edition compared to what we're playing with now. But yeah, I think those are the 3 biggest changes that I've seen. I mean, it's tough right now because, I mean, we know that there's point changes coming for models. We don't know what it is. So the games I have been playing in 9th edition, I'm still playing with 8th edition point values. So I don't fully know what I'm losing, what I'm gaining, if I technically will be losing anything, because I'm playing an army that isn't necessarily top tier. So I don't know if they're going to get any points changes. I might just be fine playing what I have been playing.
Well, it looks like, I mean, were you able to see the quote-unquote, again, take it with a grain of salt, the leaks of the Space Marine overall point changes?
So with the Space Marines, if you really sit down and break it out, there's not much point changes. So they've increased the cost of the base model, but almost 90 to 95% of the weapons are now 0 points. So it's a wash. So it's not like you have to pay an extra 4 points for a flamer because the guy's already got them built into their art or the unit. So it just becomes free. I can see a lot of benefit to that, just because it makes less math errors. Like I can go in for days about going to tournaments and going, "Hey man, you didn't pay for that plasma pistol," or
let me just bite that off.
You know, like not throwing anybody under the bus, but we all heard that story. But that's what I'm saying. It's it makes for a lot less mathematical errors and human error when it comes to stuff like that. That it's just gonna avoid that conflict or the disgust of playing against your opponent and not being like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry that I did that."
Yeah, I also think it's going to be easier for GW to balance things, because if one unit is wreck and face, own and shop right now, they don't have to worry about changing the points on their weapon. But then the other 3 units that also use that weapon, you could balance things a little bit, ebb and flow easier. So, just to reiterate, you talked about the 3 big changes from a competitive standpoint. One was the assault phase, one was the unit coherency, and the last one was
morale.
So
yep.
I got that morale's changing to be more of a constant flow, like a constant trickle of units are going to come out instead of all or nothing.
Yes. Yeah,
and
you're not going to lose as many right off the get-go.
Yeah.
Your unit's going to stay around. You're not going to have to worry about spending the 2P stratagem to make them fearless for that turn. It's just going to be, you're good. Go. Children.
He's awesome. That
Children.
little man's going to get us on like some streamer award show. But, right, so, but do you think from a competitive standpoint, just drilling into the morale thing real quick, and we could look at the other ones in the future, but that now that it's not all or nothing, once I get to a spot, if I'm working on, say, 30 or not orc boys, they're kind of a hard thing to do, but I'm working on a 20 guardsman blob, as soon as I'm making them make that test, I'm moving on to another target. Because there's no other benefit to killing more.
So, yes and no. This kind of came up in one of the test games I had against one of our other guys. Sorry, I got to get a little comfortable here. We ended up playing a game, ended up basically at a 30 demonettes, shot the snot out of them, ended up basically where I would have lost that entire unit, even with after my 50% attrition. So once you hit, your unit size hits below 50%, instead of losing guys on just ones, you're losing them on ones and twos. So a bad dice roll can go real bad real fast. But I ended up losing 22 of the demonettes in one round with all of his knights and all that shooting at me. He charged in, killed a couple more, and after my combat attrition, I was still left with one demonette, even though technically I would have lost them all with an 8th edition roll. So that made it so I wasn't taking Overwatch next turn, or potential Overwatch from that night, because that night was already locked in combat.
Gotcha.
So it allowed me to move freely and play that kind of game instead of having to worry about that night.
Yeah, and it's basically like it's an 18% chance if you're still over half, or chances are, if you're getting killed enough people that you're going to reliably lose that morale check, you're under half.
Yeah, you'll end up losing, when you're under half, statistically you'll lose a third of your unit.
Yeah.
But that's a heck of a lot better than losing them all in one phase.
And it's not a third of the whole unit, it's only a third of the guys that are left.
Exactly.
It's really not much when you think
it was game changing in the way that played out in the couple of games that I played with those rules. It just made, people are going blob unit, or, big horde units aren't going to be a thing, and I totally disagree. They are 100% worth it as long as you can figure out how to play coherency, because otherwise coherency is going to screw you.
And that's
in every game.
A great segue into the second game that we're talking about, coherency. Yeah. So if my understanding of it's right, and I'm going to throw this to you to correct me as I inevitably get this wrong, blobs bigger than 6 guys need 2 models that they have to stay within 2 inches horizontally or 5 inches vertically too. I love that it's 5 inches because it opens up GW to make better and cooler terrain that isn't relegated to the 3-inch ruin stairwell.
Yes. Yeah. From playing with that, you are not going to have units as stringed out as you were before. Otherwise, you're just going to be pulling half the squad in one round of count or one phase of shooting. And the same with movement. It's going to require you to move a little tighter, because if you're spread out, it doesn't take much to break that unit coherency. And the same thing with having like your special weapons or your banners, your sergeants or champions and all that. They kind of got to be more centralized, because like demonettes, if you've got your musician on one side and your instrument on the other, well, you kind of screwed yourself, because one of those is going to end up getting pulled first, because you can't pull from the center, otherwise half the unit goes away.
Yeah. And then, so that's going to be important, like you said. And also, like, my Eldar tactic of flying everybody in a ring around the Farseer isn't going to work anymore because I can't pull one guy from that ring.
Yep. You're going to break it, and things are that way are going to be a little bit more complicated. I think characters are a little safer now in this edition than they were in last, as long as you, again, know how to position a character. It's not as... it makes a lot more sense from a tactical game style than what it was before of going, sorry, these guys locked in combat over here, block line, or you can't shoot at my character because they're closer. And now it's like, oh no, that character's out in the middle of the open. I don't care. I'm going to be able to shoot at him. Yeah. So having that ability, it makes it smart, and it makes it playable, and it makes you have to protect your characters a little bit more.
Yeah. So how has that changed? How's this new stuff changed your list building? Moving into, like, I know you play aggressive lists. For people that don't know you, you play not necessarily solo combat-oriented list all the time, but very in-your-face pressure aggressive.
Yeah, I am very aggressive with my army. I've always, very rarely do I have weapons or shooting weapons unless they come stock on characters like Lord Discordance. I might upgrade him to a Flamer, and the Flamer or the Lord Discordance in this edition are insane. I highly see them having some points changes with them, even though they're not necessarily, again, top bracket lit or dudes right now, but there are some tricks with them, and they're nuts. But as far as continue with the coherency, I'm still running my squads of 30 Demonettes. I've been running 3 squads of 30 in almost all my lists, even all throughout 8th. But I am having to tighten them up a little bit. I'm finding that with the way the new assault phase works and all that, infantry is nuts because engagement as well is 5 inches vertically. So you don't have to be base to base or within an inch anymore vertically. So as long as your model, say you got a guy up on the second floor and you're on the ground floor, you're engaged. There's no more playing around with it. You can now swing at the unit up above and you're locked in combat.
Now, is that model to model, or is that still base to base?
There's no model to model, and there's no base to base anymore. It's engagement. Engagement rule is 1 inch, and then vertically it's 5 inches.
So, but where is that drawn to? Is that drawn to the base or
base to base?
Got it.
It's base to base. So your standard floors right now with all the terrain is only 3 inches up. So you can get up there, and you don't have to make those huge charge rolls because you have a 5-inch vertical engagement rule now. So that's changed.
Now that's on infantry, right? Anything that doesn't have a base is still hull to hull, right?
Yeah, if you're a vehicle, it's hull, but vehicles can't go up floors, so there's no vertical worry about that.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about the knight going up a floor. I was worried about the knight still being able to grab someone out of the second floor.
Yeah, so with knights and all that, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, because I haven't really dealt with knights in close combat much. I'm pretty sure that is model to model.
I think so as well. Yeah.
So, which again, it's something that makes sense. But yeah, it's the coherency is big. The fact that it makes it so. Again, you're talking when you're deep striking. Deep striking is 9 inches away. There's nothing in this edition as of right now that I can tell that I've seen. I mean, it may be coming out because I'm sure once this book drops, we're going to have an FAQ the same day. I can almost guarantee that there's things in here that have been overlooked or not put in that need some clarification. And that could be, and I know they said that there's going to be a set of rules and another set of an appendix in this book that's going to have what if scenarios. Like, oh, I can't find the core rule. Oh, it's here. This is what I got to follow. But right now, it's just like it was back in the beginning of 8th edition, where if a unit's up on the second story, or even the first story, you measure a diagonal line, that's your 9 inches, and you charge in. You don't have to make it to the first floor. You just have to make it within 5 inches vertically. And there's nothing saying that a vertical distance isn't a diagonal line either.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So it's like, I mean, you're not on the same level. So if you're up this much higher, you're vertical. So now I'm measuring 5 inches this way. There's nothing saying that's not how it's going to be. Those are the things that need to get fixed.
Yeah, because the idea that someone has to be an inch this way, but 5 inches, 10 degrees up from that.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in this rules right now that says that they've released that that's not how it's played. So if that's the case, if you're an inch above the ground or standing on the little GW boxes, the storage crates that are 2.5 inches tall, I only have to make a 6-inch charge to technically be within the 5-inch vertical height.
Yeah. Or what's even you can play that in both ways too, because you can't move within engagement range. Like you can't end within engagement range, which means you could have a guy on a box that pushes the people away 3 inches off an objective just because he's standing half an inch up on top of a box.
Yep. Yeah, there. Like I said, there's some things in there that need to get worked on a little bit. But yeah, like I said, those were the coherency, and that was more or less the coherency with the assault that's changed. I mean, coherency is the same basically as far as it was back then, except for now it's 5 inches vertically and 2 inches horizontally, which it was always 2 inches. But the fact is, if you break coherency, you lose models, which is huge.
Yeah. I think the average person, myself included, will lose more models to coherency than to morale.
I think you're going to start that way, but you'll quickly find out that you can't do that. You know that it's important to kind of ball your stuff up a little bit more.
I agree with you then, and I mean, I think the biggest argument, not that I'm following this 100% or I'm in this camp, but the biggest argument against Horde armies is the new blast weapon rule. I think some of these blast weapon rules are very good, like the is it the Wyvern for Space Marines that shoots 46?
Yeah, and there's a couple of them in the Space Marines, and Forge World as well that have 46 shots. So yes, those are going to be gross, but there's ways to combat that now, and it's with the tactical reserves. The tactical reserve I've used it every game that I played, and it has more than made the models that I put into reserve 100% worth putting in reserve.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that the tactical reserves will combat the big blast weapons pretty effectively, because blasts can't be shot in close combat at all. So all you got to do is touch those vehicles and they turn off.
Yeah, and not even just with the blast weapons, it's also going to be your bigger characters that can be targeted because they have 10 or more wounds. So, like, again, your Lord Discordants, your Keeper of Secrets, your Bloodthirsters and all that, instead of putting them in, you can't deep strike a Lord Discordant, but you can sure heck put them in Tactical Reserve. And I've been playing them as Emperor's Children, and so it only requires, I think with what was it? I think it was only like 1 CP or something like that to put it in Tactical Reserve with their points value. or their power level, their current power level, and then that'll allow them to come in off whatever. But they have a stratagem that turns any of your assault dice into a 6. So as long as you roll a 3+ on one of your 2 dice to charge, you're guaranteed to charge. So you're coming off reserve 9 inches away from an enemy unit, you go, boom, honor thy prince, and you're in combat.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and then the Lord Discordance, again, the reason why I've been paying for the flamers is their vehicles. So why not put that flamer on there and shoot it in your shooting phase now too, when your opponent doesn't leave combat, and you're like, oh, I'm going to clear some more chaff.
Yeah.
Because vehicles can shoot in combat. That flamer is not a blast weapon, and why not take those D6 shots?
And I think there's a lot of speculation out there. And correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't released what flamers are actually going to be yet, officially, right?
Not officially, but I don't think there's going to be any changes to them besides what they already are. The main thing is things like on vehicles that you can shoot them into close combat.
Yeah, because they're not blast. They did come out and say flamers are not blast weapons.
Yes. Yeah, which sweet. It makes me want to pull back out my Blood Angels with the Flamestorm Cannon and 2 heavy flamers on the sides. Like, why not just run them down to your opponent's throat and be like, charge them? You got to charge them. Or you're not going to charge them, they're just going to shoot freely.
Yeah, you're not going to charge them, or I'm going to charge you.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole idea that tanks are going to be so aggressive that they're charging you now because they don't care.
Yep, and it makes it awesome, especially with the emergency disembarkation strat that they released. Why not throw your squad of berserkers and a rhino charge around and be like, blow it up? I don't care.
Oh, but the unit can't charge when the
rhino
blows up, though, right?
Correct, but so you're not going to position yourself on your charge to have that rhino blow up.
You're gonna wait till after.
You're gonna go, okay, you're either gonna run away from it, or you're gonna try to blow it up, and then I'm gonna get out and then charge you.
Yeah, and if you run away from it, they're so close, they're just gonna get out and chase.
They're gonna get out anyway. Exactly. Yeah. So
now that you've had more time to digest the rules, like we talked about the 3 big winners, what is the 3 winning codexes in your opinion that'll benefit the best, and what's the 3? I guess we'll just start with that. What do you think the 3 winners are of 9th edition?
The top winner that I see as of right now, with the way Assault works, is Slaanesh. They are a force to be reckoned with in the Assault phase, and that being Slaanesh Demons and Emperor's Children. I think you're going to see Ultramarines being played again because of the as of right now you can't fall back and shoot, but Ultramarines can, so they're going to be useful. And I would say just about any other Horde army is honestly still going to be more than viable and scary in this edition.
Okay.
Without seeing the new Space Marines or Necron stuff. Like, I haven't seen the new Necron stuff besides their little goofy leaks that people keep putting up on Reddit, but they're going to be insane, the new Necrons.
Okay, now, do you think that we're going to see any old Necron stuff? Because I have eyes, so I've seen some of the goofy Reddit leaks, and they are insane. They're super good. But that's almost an entire new army worth of model line that they're releasing for this.
Yeah, you're still going to see place for your Wraiths and your Destroyers, things like that, but I think the newer stuff is going to be more geared towards an assault-based Necron army. I can definitely see that being played between Void Dragon. I guarantee Silent King is going to be insane in every phase. I guarantee the new Monolith is going to be really, really, really good. You'll probably see Flayed ones hit the table again. The only problem is they're $45 for a box of 5.
Yeah.
That's my biggest turn off with Flayed ones. But yeah, the new Crab Destroyers are going to be nasty. The same with that Lord. Yeah, they're going to be good.
Cool. Yeah. Now, on the flip side to that, a lot of those armies that you said would give the best of have some sort of assault-based focus. Slanesh being able to swing first, to be able to get the speed to get into combat. Emperor's Children, also very fast melee army.
Yeah, so the big thing with the Slanesh and Emperor's Children, the Slanesh Demons and Emperor's Children, the way the combat phase breaks down is, say it's my turn, I charge all my stuff in. You get to activate first. Defender always activates first. If Defender doesn't have anything that has fight first, all my stuff then gets to go. So I swing with all my Demonettes, my Keepers, my Seekers, and all whatever else is engaged, my Lord Discordants that are Emperor's Children. Clear everything out, and then your turn, you decide to charge back into me. You hit my Lord Discordant with a Knight, you hit my Demonettes with some Guardsmen or something to lock him in, and I go, well, I kind of really want my Lord Discordant to live. I'm the defender this time. I'm going to choose who swings first, and I'm going to swing with my Lord Discordant.
Yeah.
That's where it's huge. That's where Slanesh has the power, and the problem that we saw with other armies fighting against Slanesh is if you make one charge and fail the rest, that one dude who charged that one unit is dead, and you didn't benefit anything from even attempting to charge that turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what would you do if you had to line up against a Slanesh army then? So, say that you get to know that your opponent for a tournament's going to play Slanesh. What kind of tricks can you bring out of all the rest of the codexes? Like, who has the best matchup against that?
Another Horde army.
Just enough
Something
bodies?
It's got to be a body army. Yeah, it's the shooting is going to do some stuff, but we've lost a foot, and so you don't have the extra room to use flanking abilities. I think that Eldar is one of the armies that suffered a lot in this edition, with all their bikes moving like 20 inches and all that. You don't have the benefit to that speed anymore because everything else also gained basically 12 inches of movement with cutting that chunk of the table off.
And talking about Eldar, and we were going to get into the biggest losers of 9th edition.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a naysayer, but being able to taking away the idea that you could fly and still shoot, taking away Overwatch, making the board smaller, like, I get that you're going to let me pick my secondary objectives, but I'm not going to live very long, so I'm not going to have a lot of turns to get those secondary objectives.
Yeah, so I like that there's so many different styles of the secondary objectives. My gut feeling is that those aren't going to be the only ones. Just like everything else, I can almost see having Codex specific secondaries. Could see it. I don't know, but I could see that potentially happening.
They did officially release saying that there are Codex specific secondaries.
Did they? Okay, I didn't hear that.
It's in the Eldar faction focus.
All right.
The one about the having something in all 4 corners. they did mention that in addition to that, there will be at least Eldar, but I assume if it's Eldar, it's every Codex.
It's going to be everything. Okay, I missed that. So good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a good thing to see then. So I think that you might see some stuff on there, but yeah, I think the secondaries are going to play a big factor in how things are played. I can see the terrain rules being.
They also said secondaries is going to be big because it's 100 points total, right? And only 45 can come from your primaries, and then 45 from your secondary, or something like that.
Yep.
And then 10 for having an army that's painted.
Yep. Which I like. I mean, I'm a fan of promotion of painting your models.
Yeah, and all they said was combat ready, right? So like
you just put 3 colors on.
Yeah,
like
prime them and then paint their guns. Like really, that's it.
Spray paint rainbow rattle can on them. I don't care. Just put a little time into them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that get salty about, oh, they can't tell me I have to paint, but like, really, you're right. Just a couple colors of rattle can paint, and you're done.
Yeah, they're now telling you you don't have to paint, but you're going to lose 10% of your score.
Yeah. And the only negative side I can see from that, though, is being a hobby-focused team of Team Bad Decisions. Do you think that's going to make tournament organizers sit back a little bit and say, we don't want the subjective idea of scoring paint anymore? GW did it for us by making it worth 10 points. And
I don't know. I think the missions that we have, at least the couple they've shown, are going to be very similar. I think they've shown 3 of them. And I think they all have the same style of objectives. But I don't know if they're trying to make it so painting isn't as big. So for the Michigan GT, that might take effect, but at the same time, their Michigan GT has always been more hobby based. So they've always had a third of the points into painting. So I could see them saying, no, we're not going to use these extra 10 points and we're going to go this route.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, but it also makes sense for places like LVO and Bay and Nova and all these big tournaments that don't necessarily give an extra prize besides a little plaque for a extremely well painted army.
Yeah, it also helps. But it also helps for local game stores. They get to sell more of their paint. They get to sell. If you got 4 guys showing up for a tournament because that's your local scene, and that's probably, I'd have to say that's probably most of the players. Most of the player base is playing at either basements or local game stores or small hobby shops, and that promotes the hobby aspect everywhere. Then at least a little.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just another way for them to sell more product, and I'm totally down for that. Yeah. And they're not saying that you have to use Citadel paints on your models. They're not going to test your paints, but yeah, they want to see some color, and it makes sense. I can't say that I've ever enjoyed going to even a friendly tournament and putting down an army that I've spent hundreds of hours painting, and now I'm playing against 3 armies that are all gray and resin. It's how long have you been playing the game? 12 years, and you don't have paint on your models? So it's hard, and it's a little disheartening. When I play a game, I want to play against other painted stuff. It always is much more fun for both parties to have not only a fun game, but a good-looking game, too. That might not be the way everybody thinks, or even most, but I can tell you the group of players in our area are all about painting their stuff, or at least when they come to even a event, at least having a squad done. Like, I'm working on it. Show that you're trying,
Yeah.
because it's part of the game. It's a huge part of the game. Like I said, I'm working on 4 Keepers of Secrets right now, and I've worked on them since 10 o'clock this morning, and they're about 80% done. So it just takes a little time, and I know not everybody has that time frame to put into it, but yeah,
So
I don't.
when it comes down to like, we talked about the winners. We talked a little bit about Eldar being one of the losers. But do you have who else do you think are gonna get hit a little hard by this?
I think guard's gonna get hurt a decent amount by it, just because a lot of their stuff is artillery based or stuff that just isn't going to be great in combats. So, yes, I think this edition is going a little bit more melee centric, but I think there's always going to be a place for gunline. But when you lose a foot distance between your backboard edge and your opponent's backboard edge, it's not hard to cut across that table.
That and like the lists that I've thought of for guard, which are kind of Lehman Russ heavy, and they're like rapid fire battle cannons and Punisher cannons up front with flamers to try and if the Punisher cannon
Mm-hmm.
gets hit, it's still shooting 40 shots into the people that charged it with 2 flamers.
Yep.
But the issue is that it's shooting at -1, and if it gets hit, it's normally hitting on 4s, then goes to 5s. If you bracket that even 6 wounds, or maybe, yeah, it's like 6 or 7 wounds, it's now hitting
Yeah.
on 6s or not at all.
Exactly.
Combat.
Yeah, I think they put out something in here that ones always fail, 6s always succeed. I'm pretty sure that was in here in these rules. I'd have to verify that again.
I saw the ones
But
always fail bit.
yeah, I think there was somewhere in here. I'd have to go over it again because I mean it's still relatively new to me. But that even the case, yeah, it's not hard to bracket a vehicle.
Yeah,
Like
at all.
half the time it can take only one shot, and it one last cannon, you're bracketed with a good roll. Or
that,
what?
and those bikes, I keep coming back to those Primaris bikes. I think they're going to be a big thing, man, in the new edition.
They're good. I'm curious to what they're doing with like the Astartes chain swords. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be like a Primaris thing. I don't think they're going to go into all chain swords being that, because that would just be nuts.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that the Primaris chainswords are the only ones that have the -1 AP. And
Yeah.
I think that, but then they brought out the chaplain on a bike, and if he maintains the Primaris chaplain on foot, has that litany of battle. That's the +1 strength, +1 attack, +1 damage.
Yeah, he's a pretty model.
And then it's a beautiful model.
One of my favorite they've released.
And then you put him with that 3-man bike squad. They're putting out on a charge, and if you're White Scars and you can advance and charge, they're moving almost 24 inches before they roll anything for charges. Because they're moving, 14 plus a flat 6 inches for being a bike.
Yeah.
They're 2 attacks base, +2 for devastating charge, +1 for the Primaris chainsword, and then if you get the litany of battle off, your +1 attack. So the little guys are 6 attacks each, the sergeant's 7 attacks. And,
Yep.
And then +1 strength, so you're at strength 5, and 2 damage a pop at 1 AP. Like, they're gonna eat Primaris, they're gonna eat like Necrons, they're gonna eat hordes at that kind of volume.
Yeah, they're gonna be good, but even playing the way you're talking, it's gonna be easily countered, because all you have to do is kill one of the bikes, and then you can target the chaplain.
I agree. I didn't think about that.
And then as soon as you kill the chaplain, that squad's just not what it used to be.
Yeah. It now has there. I don't think. I mean, there's been leaks and stuff, but is that squad just a flat 3, or is it variable like a regular bike squad goes from 3 to 7, 3 to 10?
I believe it's 1 to 3.
1 to 3. You could take that
Yes,
as a singular bike.
I think you can.
Oh,
There, because they released or somebody leaked all the points to them. I'd have to find it.
you're good.
Uh,
We don't. You don't need to.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure they're like 45 points a pop. So I mean, the squad is only like 130 points for the three, and that's
Like nothing.
insane for the amount of shooting and uh, even wounds. Like I mean, they're 4 wounds a pop. They're no joke.
Yeah.
I'm glad that GW put out. I don't know if you saw that somebody was asking about the storm shields in one of their
Oh
chats on the
yeah.
40K Facebook, and they're like, no, if it has rules already and it's not getting new rules, use the old rules. Not everything is getting these amazing storm shields.
Yeah, because that new storm shield is what, a 4-up invul and then +1 to saves.
Yes,
This.
which makes you immune to negative AP weapons.
Oh wait. So walk me through that. So a 4-up invul, does it become a 3-up invul with the +1 to save, or is that already factored in?
No, it's a 4+ with a +1. So your saving throws would be a 3 up for that.
Okay. Uh, but then you still fail on 1s and 2s, right?
Uh, no, no, because you're those things are going. So those storm shields are going to be on those veterans, and I don't know if they have a either. I think they have a 2 up save. So if they get a +1 to that, they then go to a 1+ save,
Okay.
and then there's something in the rules where if you are at it was if you're at a 1 or a 0 for a roll, negative modifiers don't affect you. So even if you're getting hit with like a negative or like a last cannon into them, there's still a 2 up save.
Huh. I wonder how GW is going to address that. I feel like they're going to address it because I don't feel like, to me, that doesn't read that they're a 1-up save naturally. It feels like they're a 2-up save
Yeah,
with a
I
+1 modifier, and
exactly. We
therefore
haven't
they're
seen the
not.
full rules of it.
Yeah.
So we're just going by that little bit of wording. We haven't seen the rules of the veterans and all that. But
Yep.
scrolling through this one, um, this pre-release I was talking about, it says unmodified hit and wound rolls of 6 always succeed.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So,
So
I mean,
I knew it was in there
everybody's
somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, that is big, but yeah, it's still game changing when you start losing brackets. And
Yeah.
I mean, 40 shots hitting on 6s is not 40 shots hitting on 3s.
Yeah. And another winner, if we wanted to talk a little bit, is if the Space Marine point changes are to be believed, Terminators didn't move at all when the rest of their models kind of moved up a little bit, which
Yes,
means they definitely were not good in 8th edition from a point effectiveness standpoint. Um, do you think at maybe averaging anywhere between 15 and 20% average point reduction relatively is going to make them see more play?
I don't know if they need a reduction of points, but I think with the way the points, even with the Space Marines have been leaked, it's now showing that everything is viable. Like you're not just going to have these singular builds. This isn't like you're going to a 180 player GT and going, oh, I'm playing up against Space Marines, so they've got to be playing Raven Guard or Iron Hands. It's you could be playing against anything now. Same thing with demons and all that, and all the books, and for that matter. I think everything now has a place and potential to be put on the table and be effective on the table.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Um,
So, so yeah, like when you're talking Terminators, they weren't great in last edition because there were things that were better, like the Centurions and the Aggressors and everything else. But now those things are going up 15 points a pop.
Yeah, you want to talk about something that got hit with a points hammer?
You know what I mean? It's like,
Centurions got hit hard.
yeah, and they needed it. I mean, they were insane. So when you sit there and look at it, you're like, oh, now I can get 2 Terminators for the price of 1 Centurion. Maybe I'm going to go back to playing some Terminators. And then again, they can deep strike for free. You don't have to put the points into them to coming off any of the board edges or anything like that. So you're gaining that perk.
Yeah. And there's nothing I've seen so far that says you can't null deploy. Because even in the one mission, it says there's no sudden death.
No. So from what I've gotten out of it is, there's I don't know how all of it's going to be played out, but I don't know if there's advantages to finishing off deploying first like there is now. I don't know if there's.
Well, I'm not just thinking about finishing off deploying first, but from a null deploy standpoint, if I'm going up against Slanesh and I know they're going to reach out and charge me turn 1 anyway, why not null deploy and then not get charged and at least get 1 turn of shooting the turn they come in before I inevitably get charged?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any negative to that anymore. I don't think there's, any potential negative of keeping things in reserve, because I think there's, now you have multiple ways of putting things in reserve. So why not take advantage of them, especially considering you get an extra free CP a turn or per game. So, yeah, I think by far out of all the editions I've played, and I've been playing since my very first game was in like the last 2 weeks of 2nd edition. This is by far the best edition I've seen.
I think that I'm going to reserve best or worst to when I actually get a chance to play it, but this is the most excited I've been to play 40K, and it is the most, I feel, well thought out rule set that has come out for 40K in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one that misses 7th edition, not because of the stars or the unkillable things and the formations and all that. I enjoyed 7th because of the complexity of the game. You had 7 pages of special rules like first strike and outflank and scout move and all this other stuff. And not only did you have to take advantage of that in the game, but you had to know how your opponent was going to take advantage of it. And those were the rules that made people choose different ways of playing their army. That's why 7th edition, you weren't just saying everybody running the same thing. And in this edition, they neutered the logistics of the game so much that it became too basic for a advanced wargaming game, where it was like, oh, that's good, why not take that? No, that's not as good, why do I ever want to take that? Why would I ever waste my points into putting that on the table? But that's also why I played my Slanesh. It was something that nobody ever played. You never ever saw it at a tournament. And it had some advantages that it threw people off. And, I didn't want to be just a follower, and that's why I played the Slanesh and going, okay, what can I do to counter the meta that's out there right now and still have a game that I enjoy playing and not just playing everybody else's game. So now that we're into this edition where you're having these more advanced rules coming out and these specific I can't even think of the word, scenarios happening during the game, that you have to think of before they're actually going to happen because they'll affect your game more. It's not, it's not like that in 8th edition right now because it's just so straightforward. You're not going to have the what ifs or the potential of like the deep striking like I was talking about and all that. Those are things that aren't there right now.
Now, it came out in the Gene Stealer Cult faction focus, and it actually came out in the rule set too, about actions to take that units can take during the game that aren't in particular anything to do with what normally you would see a 40k unit do, but it's like raise the banner or operate the console or
Yeah, those are like, from my understanding, as of right now, those are like for the secondary objectives and all that. And that's going to be things happen at a certain point during your turn to secure that secondary objective. Um, we may see that later when the new codexes start getting pumped out, that units might have specific actions. And it could be similar to like the actions in the combat phase where like they just released the Overlord where he's got the My Will Be Done, which is basically an action during the command phase. It's like a command ability like in Sigmar. I think you're going to see a lot of things potentially changing to that style, like the Dark Apostles and the Chaplains with their litanies and all that.
Yeah. I'm looking real quick. I'm going down to the one released mission that came from that starter rulebook.
Yes, all of the only war mission.
Yeah. So where does it say primary objective? Capture and control. So it's the hold an objective, hold 2 objectives, hold more objectives than your opponent, I think is the primary.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So you're gonna look at Dr. Detroit brought in finally caught the show live, even if it nearly missed it all. No, you're good, Dr. Detroit. We're still, I don't know, hanging out and chilling. It's great to catch you live. What are you doing right now? Like, are you working on a particular army or something? We're gonna keep jibber jabbering, but we'd love to hear what you're working on.
Always.
But yeah, a couple things I think are great about the mission is that everything's measured from the center of the table, which means I can play on my coffee table. I can play on a circle I draw in chalk outside with kids. I could play in a giant dick-shaped crevice in the ground. I could play anywhere as long as I could put the point down and say that's the center. The rest of the map is done for me.
Yep. Yeah, it seems to be pretty straightforward that way. For those who play on Tabletop Simulator, it's not that easy right now. We played a couple games on that, and it was a logistical nightmare to figure all that out. Just because nobody's got a mod out right now for the new table size, from what I can tell.
Well, can't you just just make it just say with the other guy that you're playing on a smaller table?
No, we
use that foot.
We basically do. But the problem is a lot of these mods are set up for like ITC terrain and all that, which is fine. So they're pre-made maps, but the problem is finding the very center, because it's not an easy way to measure. The game is not perfect by any means, so measuring on there is in all honesty shitty. And then when you start talking going distances, it takes both players to legitimately get down to move objectives certain amounts to square things out. Because you can't just go, I need a point right here, and put a point down. It'll ding for a second, and then as you're trying to move it, it'll disappear because your cursor's no longer there. Yeah. So it's a struggle that way.
But hopefully we'll get it'll get better because we'll move out of having to do tabletop simulator
Yes,
into
which is
actual
why
gaming.
I built my table.
So something I'd like to touch on. We're starting to get people. Victor Von Champ joined us. Uh, Dr. Detroit joined us. We still probably got Nurgle Matt lurking around here somewhere. So throwing some stuff out there. Guys, we got the emotes in, and they are uploaded. So they should go live as soon as they're accepted. So maybe by the next time you catch our video, we've got 3 of them. You can put them together. They'll form a wargaming table. Let's see if I can throw them up on stream real quick. You will notice the thing behind the curtain. But also, Eric, so there's not some awkward silence, you want to throw out again, I know we touched on it in the beginning, but things that may be going on for Gen Con, and now that we got people watching live, kind of explaining what opportunities there are for 40K in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, so Gen Con, as we all know, has been canceled this year, and they've reached out to a couple groups of players and asked them to run remote Gen Cons or virtual Gen Cons. And what that entails is basically us getting together. I think there's 5 of us for our little group that's doing it. And we're going to be showing off 9th edition. We'll be having a couple. Like Gen Con is mainly known for having a 4-day mega battle style game. And what we're doing to accommodate that is we're having all these locations kind of linked together, but having their own game, but can be affected by other things. So again, it's all a charity event. So you can, we're still working on the logistics of how much each thing's going to cost to affect the game, but there could be dropping horrible bombardments, losing things in warps for a couple turns, who knows. But say you donate $25 to drop an horrible bombardment at any point on any of the tables, could be kind of fun just to play around and mess with people's game style. I know Team Ed Decisions has been talking about doing a couple extracurricular events. Those are still being worked on as far as potentially having some celebrity names come out and play a virtual game with us as far as they're in one of our players' headsets and telling them how to play their army while playing against somebody else. We've also talked about doing potential robot simulation, basically, where you get to pay I'm not sure what we're talking about yet, but you basically get in my head and you're going to tell me how to play against my opponent and play my army for me and make decisions.
Kind of like maybe they have this thing called Twitch Plays Pokemon, where they basically use chat to play a Pokemon game. Like they just put it up on.
Exactly.
So
that's a great way to say it. Yeah.
It'll be a long game, but it'll be like Twitch Plays 40K. And
yeah, it would be a little longer, but yeah, you would be in my ear, and I'd have a microphone, hopefully, to be able to chat back and make decisions together and play an army that you haven't played before or seen on the table and want to know how it's played. It can be fun in all sorts of different ways. But yeah, those are some of the things that we're talking about doing. We still have to get the logistics down for all of it, but we're hopefully going to have that set in stone, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. But
now, Victor was talking about in chat a little bit. Have you heard anything about shooting without line of sight or the complexity of the terrain rules? I know the terrain rules are not officially out yet. Anybody who has gotten their hands on a box set, which we haven't, but there's some people out there that have opened up a box set, will have the rules, I think, in there, and they'll have maybe some more terrain knowledge than we do at this second, but soon the full terrain rules should be coming out for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, You still have to have line of sight to something, unless you're Tau and have some smart missile systems and whatnot. But as far as like indirect fire and all that, I know nothing about it. I know just about as much as you guys know, maybe even a little less.
Yeah, Victor. For whatever that YouTube battle report, I'm not sure if the mod's gonna let you post it, but try and post it, and if not, I'll send you. You can send me the link. I'll send you where you can put that too. But yeah, if we could take a look at it. It's just a 10-second clip, and then we'll comment on what we think about it. Apparently, there's some people on YouTube, if I'm interpreting this right from Victor, that are playing 9th edition already, and they are maybe manipulating a terrain rule to say that you could shoot without line of sight. I highly doubt that that's a thing. Maybe it's a misinterpretation of the rules, but yeah, I know I'm on a 30-second lag, so it's going to be a little bit of a game of telephone getting back and forth the information. But please continue, Eric. We talked about Gen Con. We got future content coming to the show. I am personally going to do a few videos on how to do display boards. So I'm going to work on a couple display boards for a few of my armies for Combat Patrol next year. Hopefully taking Combat Patrol to Adepticon and being able to play there. So I'm going to go from like the planning phase to what... Yeah, okay. So I'll work on that 1 second, Victor. But I am interested in seeing that clip. I'll be working on some shows. It'll go maybe 15-minute episodes. One on planning, one on what kind of tools I'd get, what kind of setup I'd have, all the way through like the finished product of a display board. And I think that'd be cool because I don't think a lot of people are touching display boards right now as a topic for 40K. I think it's kind of a niche thing that not a lot of people even do.
Most people don't do them, just because a lot of these events you have to travel for, and it's kind of impossible to fly with anything outside of a collapsible 2x2.
Got it. Yeah.
When you do stuff local, you're not a problem, but then again, why would you make a second display board unless you like to make bad decisions like we do?
Yeah. I guess that we're unique in the idea that that we bring a lot of different display boards and random stuff to the stuff we're doing. But
I've got several of my displays down underneath my table that I just built, but it's the only place I can keep them. So, I think there's 4 down there right now.
So when it comes to an army, what importance do you put on display boards? Like, do you come up with the army first, display board second, or do you come up with... Are you thinking about your display board or how you're going to display it when you come to build the army, or...
No, I normally start with the army and then figure out something that goes with it. It also, again, depends on whether or not you're playing at something like the LVO and all that, or a really competitive tournament over something like the Michigan GT, where it's more theme based. So at the Michigan GT, I made sure that I was theoretically having a couple extra units that I wouldn't normally play with, but I could also make a better display board because display was 33% of my total points. So that was a big point there. But yeah, normally when I do a table or a display board, I try to keep it to about a 2x2 at most. It's easier to tote around. Like I have a collapsible moving cart, a wheeled cart that I'll cut holes in the bottom of my display so it fits on and locks right on and can't even be wiggled off. So in case somebody comes up and bumps it, I'm not going to have anything that is going to have any kind of significant casualties. I normally have all my terrain or extra pieces, whether normally as buildings and things like that, removable. Again, just for storage reasons, because I mean, you start putting Nautilus crowns and realm gates and all that on a table or display and locking it in. It becomes hard to store those when you get home. But it all depends. Like, I mean, I've made tables for Adepticon that are 4 foot by 4 foot, have running water fountains or waterfalls with running water and all sorts of other stuff. It just depends on how extreme you want to go. But yeah, we've made some crazy stuff.
It is hard to try and plan on like having like things that you need plugged in, having power, having.
It's hard not to be happy with the job we're doing.
I don't want to be. Sorry, I had that ad going for a second. But not having power or not knowing you're gonna have power, I've showed up to tournaments before, and I've had pumps and like tons of stuff going on in the background, like lighting and like movement, and then I get there and I realize I'm in the middle of a gymnasium and I have no power whatsoever, and none of my stuff works, and it just doesn't look good when none of it works. It's just a black box, you know?
So the Eldar year that I took before I was part of the Team Bad Decisions, I thought about this well in advance, and this was the year I had the running waterfalls, and I had LED strips. I mean, it was a whole shebang. I brought enough. I outsourced all my power and put it all into DC outlets, basically. And I think the entire board ran off 104 AA batteries. So, I mean, you're talking, there was a lot of batteries, and it added a good, probably 30 pounds to the board. But yeah, I made sure I had my own power supply, that I wasn't going to have to worry about that. Because, yeah, I had fog machines and everything else that all needed to be ran. And then you got to figure out where you're going to put all these power outlets or these DC 8 battery holders or 16 battery holders, and figure out where you're going to hide them on your board so they're not just obvious and they're accessible. Because these things, when you're running them all day, the power, like, I mean, you'll go, I think I had to change the batteries 3 times. Like, I went through a good 400 batteries over that weekend. It was stupid. It was absolutely stupid. But
man,
it was fun. It was a cool board.
So I did have a second to go through that clip in the background. Maybe you guys heard some of the sound bites I had to clean up. But it does look like he is reading from some sort of terrain rule to say that I think he's using that forest one that was talked about in dense terrain earlier, that a unit can shoot out of the 3-inch tall dense terrain without a penalty, but the unit can't be shot back into the 3-inch dense terrain, the 3-inch tall dense terrain. They do get a penalty by shooting into it. I don't agree with Striking Scorpion's interpretation that the unit can't shoot into the terrain. I think that's we may see more rules come out about that in the future. So it's like a weird kind of tricky thing right now. I think without speculating too much on things we can and can't say, it will get elaborated and it will get talked upon. So going about that. But,
yeah, I would definitely agree with Victor, though, that the terrain rules compared to this edition to what we're getting in 9th is much more complicated, and it's a necessity to have it. Like, so when you went from even 7th edition to 8th, 7th edition had terrain rules. Like, Ruins had a 4-up cover save. Trees, you had a 5-up. You could go to ground and get a +1 cover. You could do all these things, and everything was interactive. The Promethean Pipes gave a 4-up cover. but then if you rolled a 1, you'd explode. There was all these things back in 7th, and then when they went to 8th, they really dumbed it down, in my opinion, to the point of where you didn't need terrain except for line of sight blocking terrain, because terrain was just not important in this edition. And you could still do the same thing with line of sight blocking terrain as you could with a ruin in this edition, because +1 cover legitimately didn't mean anything, because almost everything shooting in the game has a -1 AP as long as it's not a basic weapon. So why even have that in the game? Like, there's no benefit to it, in my opinion. So yeah, I wholeheartedly think what we're going to be getting with the terrain rules is important, a necessity, and you will be able to build armies around terrain. But the important thing to remember at that is when you're picking up a friendly game, you're going to spend probably a good 20 minutes or so defining a table of terrain. And then when you're going to probably, like I said, a larger event or tournament, all of your terrain is going to be predetermined. It's this specific ruin is collapsible, this, and this one is obscure, and this is here, and that's what you're going to see in an event, because you cannot. You're already struggling for time at an event. You can't spend 20 minutes discussing and arguing with your opponent over whether or not that wall is 4.9 inches tall or 5 inches tall.
Yeah.
You don't have the time for it.
And then you're gonna see, not only do you not have the time for it, but if your opponent wants to yell at you about it, and then you have to get a judge involved, and
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna see, like, so the Michigan GT is in 7th edition when it was prevalent. We had a separate sheet in our mission, or in our GT book, or handout, whatever you want to call it, our tome, where we would hand you, like, here's all your missions, your rules. It would also include a page of what each of the terrain was. So if you walked up, we had 3 different styles of terrain on the board, whether it being outside of ruins and all that. So you might walk up to your table and you have your water effect terrain was an oil field, and the oil made it dangerous terrain because it was like sludged. And then the same thing when you had lava would do something different. And then there was a water effect that if you had a lake on your table, something else would affect that piece of terrain. That's what you're going to see in this edition when it comes to larger events, because they just don't have the time or the resources themselves to have judges come over and fix arguments over players fighting over a piece of styrofoam. Because we already have enough drama as it is with the rest of the game. We can't include that into. It'll already be predetermined. I can guarantee it. I'm sure some of the event organizers will go as far as saying, I'm going to make my custom terrain, and they're going to have billboards on them that tell you what each of the terrain is. So both sides can see it.
Yeah, I think that'd be actually probably the most simple way of doing it. Either have it in your mission packet or have it on the terrain piece itself.
Yeah, you leave a custom square cut out like most of the ruins, I'm sure at most places are on a base. So this is what I'm defining as the ruin. You might just see a piece of paper stuck to it or glued to it now, or it's like, okay, now this is a dense terrain ruin that does whatever. Because there's an ungodly amount of terrain rules, I'm sure, that are coming out. But yeah. I'm all for it. They needed it.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, we've kind of hit our hour-and-a-half mark, so just a couple things we'd like to talk about real quick. We are Team Bad Decisions. Eric is a teammate of ours up there. We are kind of a Midwestern group that not only plays 40K competitively together, but we also host tournaments. So Michigan GT is a great example of a tournament that we've had around here. And We go to Adepticon and other great places. We also do this show. So we are a Monday, Friday, Saturday content kind of provided live to talk to people in the community, to hear from you guys, and then to get information both out but also in. Like, we'd love to hear about like stuff that you guys are working on. Like Nurgle Matt's working on some cool custodes right now. Who was working on the AdMac earlier today when they were talking with us? But sorry, I lost his name. I can get it for later. He was working on some AdMac. Was talking to us about some AdMac, and we'd love to hear from you guys and talk to you guys live. If you can't catch us on our Monday, Friday, Saturday shows live, because I know life gets busy and everyone, this is a hectic time, you could either catch the VODs here or our YouTube channel, the Team Bad Decisions on YouTube. Catch all our old stuff there. We're going to start putting out content about oh, thanks Victor. Victor cheered 100 bits. And we also had Chaos Spawn Wargaming follow us. If you can't catch us on the Monday, Friday, Saturday, additional content will be provided through like aspects of not just gaming, but display board building. I don't know. You're the big competitive guy, so you're like Eric. You're going to talk about, or when we have you on, we usually talk about the competitive aspect and what is competitive and not competitive. Because you've got a trophy cabinet behind you to definitely show that you know what you're talking about. And then the Hobby Time, our Saturday show, is when you'll get a collaboration of a lot of the team members coming together to talk about multiple aspects of the hobby. We'll touch on anything from how to travel with your miniatures to how to approach negative players in the game. If you're at a local tournament and the guy you're playing is like a real turd, and just how to deal with that in a collective, like, healthy way, because we all want to grow our community from the 40K community, and we're a family, really. Start to end, like, we're all in this together. So we touch on different stuff there on our Saturday show. And then Friday is the lore-based kind of hobby show in Lore Linguist, but with 9th edition around the corner, there's not a lot of new lore per se coming out until that new book drops, because we're kind of in a lore lull.
Yeah, that'll pick back up once the Necron Codex comes out, because Nora will be in the Silent King era there.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Silent King and the Void Dragon.
Yeah, we said the Silent King will be bringing in a lot of lore, as far as that's when Primarchs start reappearing. So I can see us getting some new Primarchs here in 9th edition and all that, but we could definitely touch on all that.
Yeah, 100%. And then possibly the most important thing, could not be stressed how important it is you guys. The guys watching us, supporting us. We couldn't do it without you. So just since our last show, a couple people to touch on, Chaos Spawn Wargaming has followed us since our last show, and Victor Von Champ, you cheered that 100 bits. So you guys are awesome. You support us so that we could help give you guys a safe spot to come hang out and talk about your wargaming stuff. The next show is, this is Monday. Oh man, this just started a week and it already feels like I'm halfway through it. But next show will be Friday at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, maybe 5 o'clock. If you're there by 5 o'clock, you won't miss much. We ramble in the beginning, so love to see you guys join us on Friday. But until then, I hope you guys. No, go ahead, Eric. What's going on?
Yeah, something I'm changing in the competitive corner and all that is hopefully within the next, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks. Definitely by the beginning of August, I'm going to have a camera and all that set up on my new gaming table, and we'll be definitely able to stream some actual games being played.
That'll be awesome. I didn't
So-
want to release that before you were ready, but if you're
Yeah,
ready to tell
it's-
people that, boom.
It's happening. The more, here's the things. If I tell somebody it's going to happen, my wife's got to be on board too. So, because she can't tell me no then. So, yeah. I mean, I got the table built. It's ready to go. I've got one mat on there right now. I've got 2 more ordered of the new table size. I just have to put the bracket up to hold a webcam and